I'm here with Grayson Earle, and we're going to talk about BailBloc and how crypto mining is empowering people to get out of jail and support themselves against the criminal justice system. So thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So talk to me about why you wanted to start BailBloc and how long have you been doing it? And
yeah, well, I had kind of dabbled in mining Bitcoin back in like 2011 when I was in grad school. I was sort of overseeing this media lab, and it was just one of those things that I heard about on some like Hacker News or something and was just fascinated. And so yeah, I ran a script to mine some Bitcoin for just like a couple days or something while the computers weren't being used. And you get those like these tiny little slices of Bitcoin, and I remember it added up really quickly to like 2 Bitcoin because it was early enough. And at the time that was like $100 or something, you know what I mean? But it did strike me as an interesting opportunity to sort of like generate value that way. And it kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And of course, like, I spent the Bitcoin on I bought like a Leap motion controller or something like years ago, which I thought was like free money at the time. And now I'm like, oh, I could have, $20,000. But
yeah,
nonetheless, it was, it served as an example. And then I think I forgot about crypto. And then, once Donald Trump got elected, I think like many people, I started to kind of like search through my memory for any sort of anything that could possibly help rectify the situation. And one of the things that I was thinking about a lot was like, there's already all these organizations that are doing amazing things. They just don't have any funding, or they have very little, or they like use it, there's, like Black Lives Matter, Planned Parenthood, any number of grassroots environmental organization, like all of these orgs are going to need to weather the storm, at the very least. And so I thought back to this like crypto mining that I did back in grad school. And then I had also just recently heard about that SETI at Home project that, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yeah.
And they managed to create a supercomputer effectively out of a network of volunteers who downloaded this application. And I kind of just put the two ideas together. But then, it was really when the new inquiry or the dark inquiry got involved that the project took on like new political dimensions, and we sort of started to really think about what we wanted to do and aim it at bail. And anyway, I'll take a breath there, but that was the kind of the trajectory of the project.
Yeah. Well, when was it fully launched?
We launched it on November 15th.
And how much to date has been mined?
That's a good question. I'll load up the stats, but I think about $6,000. On Christmas, we cut a check for $3,333.77. So a month after the project started, we had that money, and that was just a sort of a funny number, but that was what it was.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. What has been the response from the people who have received it? Like, you're partnered with the Bronx Freedom Fund.
Yeah. They're really cool. They're a radical organization, and they immediately were interested in what we were doing with cryptocurrency. They're a great partner, a great ally in the fight for, tangible justice now, as well as, prison abolition into the future. And they've been totally supportive. They were really happy to receive the money. They've also agreed to utilize the funds, 100% for paying bail, rather than utilizing them for the other things that they need, like administrative costs and all of this, because they recently received a grant that would cover that. So it's a really happy marriage where, 100% of the money is actually being used to get people out of jail so they can spend time with their families.
And I mean, you and I are kind of on the same page about the criminal justice system. What would you say, like, why particularly do they need, like, what are they being arrested for and why do they need help, I guess? I'm going to lob that question to you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, most people that are served by the Bronx Freedom Fund are there, awaiting nonviolent, small charges. They're these like minor criminal offenses that for the majority of people with any level of privilege or power or money, you'd have it, slap on the wrist and you'd walk away. But for a lot of marginalized people in the New York City area, for example, they get charged with a minor crime, like let's say marijuana possession. They end up with like a $600 bail. The average bail is something like $900. They end up with like a $600 bail that they can't pay. And so they end up spending time, awaiting trial, like on Rikers Island or something. And sometimes for months, and it's totally insane. So it's really like we're trying to engage a conversation about the money bail system that is like obviously an unethical system. In fact, the criminal justice system isn't even it takes as a basic assumption that it won't be able to host a fair trial for everyone convicted of a crime. It's just assumed that the vast majority of people, something like more than 90%, will take a plea bargain rather than take their cases to trial, so they can avoid, jail time and that kind of thing. Whereas if they had the money to post their own bail, they would be able to, spend the time with their family, organize their own case, and take it to trial. But if that happened, if everyone that was convicted of a crime took their cases to trial, there wouldn't be enough judges in the world to hear that amount of cases. They're already taking cases at like midnight on a Friday. So the whole system is designed in an unethical way. It's unsound, in terms of economic justice, and it's unsound in terms of racial justice.
Yeah, I read an article recently that the Norwegian jail system brought over a bunch of private jail owners from the States to show them how they deal with their convicts. Yeah. And it totally changed their life and perspective. I don't know, have you seen the Norwegian jail situations?
I feel like I saw Michael Moore give a tour of one.
Right. I mean, it's like an open island, basically. They have them on an island and they just, so, yeah. Wow. I guess I'm curious to see how much of it, like what the logical extension of this is, because the Pineapple Fund raised like 80 million, right? Have you seen those guys?
No.
Pineapple Fund is just like a charity Bitcoin fund, basically.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so people just donated their extra Bitcoin and the fund gave it out, to like water organizations. Yeah. Or have you considered working with like other political organizations or scaling this across mining centers?
I mean, I've definitely thought about it. Part of me is a little bit wary that it'll get used in a political campaign in the next year or two. But then at the same time, like if I had the opportunity to develop something like this for the Bernie campaign, I would have, would have jumped at that. So I don't know. I mean, there's like things I was streaming a movie last night on my computer and it was getting super hot. And I was like, what the hell? I searched through the activity monitor and I'm like 100% sure that it was mining Monero on the tab that I was watching the video in. And it's just it's going to become totally ubiquitous, this fundraising technique. It's a little scary. But
yeah, Netflix, they got hijacked, right?
Oh, Netflix did?
Yeah, well, Netflix and YouTube. YouTube shut it down but I also know that Netflix was being hijacked.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this was like a third-party video site. It was like, I don't even know what it was, but yeah, it's. I mean, it's kind of interesting as an alternative to advertising, but I don't know. It's when it's a non-consensual, thing that they're doing with your computer. That's
Oh yeah,
resources.
that really sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unethical. Yeah, we're working to build a mining farm off of solar and actually wind up north in the north parts of America where it's cold, and we're looking. So it's like the obvious use case here is, increasing adoption of renewable energy, and it's sort of like our own crypto super PAC,
Right.
which would be also sort of interesting. So like we could help, fund Planned Parenthood. We could help fund BailBloc. So this would be like a good, potentially sort of partnership.
Yeah, definitely. I like the idea of a crypto super PAC.
Yeah, that was sort of like my idea with when we started looking into starting a fund. I looked into Stephen Colbert's super PAC and
yeah.
What does it actually take to run a super PAC? It's just like a bunch of paperwork, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, essentially, you take a bunch of money and a bunch of paperwork and you throw it at the problem, and then you have a super PAC.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it could be worth exploring. I mean, one of the things that's, like different about something like what we're doing in the Pineapple Fund is the Pineapple Fund is kind of, obviously it's like a way of rounding up people who already have wealth in this space and already kind of know about Bitcoin and blockchain and like its applications and stuff. And then I think we're trying to engage kind of the other like segment of people who are interested in political action, but like, are unfamiliar with the space, don't possess, coins and that kind of thing. And I definitely, there's reasons to be a little, whoever has enough money to donate to a super PAC might have interests that aren't in line with people that don't have money to begin with. So there's kind of like that needs to be addressed for sure. I mean, I think, in the crypto sphere is interesting because it's kind of, it definitely leans libertarian. And I think it's at this moment, it's kind of critical for marginalized voices and maybe a more sort of like leftist dialogue to enter the picture at this juncture before it just becomes the new financial system.
Right, exactly. Cool. So what's the so users, or what are their sort of requirements, their hardware requirements to run BailBloc?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there are no requirements. It kind of scales in terms of how much processing power it uses based on the system. And by
I am running it now, by the way, on this interview.
Oh, awesome. See, there you go. Yeah, we, who was it? Grimes, the musician Grimes.
Yeah.
Tweeted about it, and she said she ran it while she's recording her new album, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty, it's low impact. It's designed to be like, the set it and forget it kind of mentality.
Yeah.
No system requirements, but I mean, basically the whole team developed it on, like MacBooks from 4 years ago. And that's our kind of our, it's the target, I suppose. But I have it running on really old machines, really new machines, and everything in between. And the really old machines, their hash rate is pretty low, but they're still part of a collective that has a very large hash rate.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of doing a more sort of public launch of this?
I mean, we attempted to do a public launch. I mean, I think we did pretty well. We have coverage in the New York Times, the New Yorker, and a bunch of other outlets in the nation. But it would be nice to kind of step onto, I don't know, maybe like television broadcast stage to talk about it, to really get enlist the help of like thousands more people. So I don't know. We'll see. the project will scale. It's ready for it.
Yeah. But are you the lead dev on the project, or are there other guys? How many other guys are there? Or
I'm the lead developer. The project is comprised of 8 people. JB Rubinovitz, she's another lead developer on the project, as is Francis Tseng and Sam Lavigne. And then heading up, the political and the strategy ends of things is Maya Binyam and Maddie Varner and Rachel Rosenfeld.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to help out however we can. So in the future, as we're probably going to do a solar project, a decentralized grid project. So this should sort of be a part of that.
Yeah, that would be great. What's your timeline for that?
We're gonna be starting it in the next couple of months, actually. So what we're trying to figure out is how to incorporate people who sell back to the grid, like a sort of power ledger, solar bankers type scenario, but also like selling energy back with this sort of ethical bent.
Yeah.
So even if we can have 10 or 15% of our profits go to this, I think that's sort of the logical step.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm really glad that you had me on, and I'm super interested in what you're doing. So keep me in the loop.
Okay. Thanks for your time, Grayson. I appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you.
All right. Peace. We'll chat soon.
All right.